Are you happy to introduce Plymouth culture?
Sure, I'm Hannah. I'm the Chief Executive of Plymouth Culture. We're a sector development agency based in Plymouth, and our role is to help enable the sector to thrive and grow.
Okay, great. And you were commissioning this 3 workshop on intersectionality on behalf of all the organisations or NPOs in Plymouth, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. We've done some work before as the collective of national portfolio organisations, and each year we try and look at something different, and it's important that we have a process of learning. And so we commissioned this as this year's programme of work.
Okay, great. What about you, Rebecca? Do you want to introduce the box? What is the box?
So I'm Rebecca, I'm the Head of Collections and Programme at the Box. And the Box is a museum, gallery and archive. We have a collection of over 2 million objects, and we have really significant visitor footfall. We've just reached our 1,000,000th visit.
So we've done these 3 workshops together. So I'm just really interested to hear what kind of takeaway you're taking away. What's your key learning about these 3 workshops?
I think I have a couple of things. The first was in the preparation for commissioning yourself around the workshops. We had been working as NPOs before in quite a siloed way. So we had looked at anti-racism. We were then going to look at socioeconomic. We were going to look at health, all things that affect our audiences in Plymouth and are part of Plymouth's demographic. And it was through a range of work with yourself that we realised with partners we might be doing more harm than good by segmenting in that way. And so that was the kind of first realisation that intersectionality would give us a wholly different conversation that we weren't yet having. So that was great to start that commissioning process and to understand what we were trying to get out of it. And then I think the thing that really stuck out for me was within the recruitment session was about thinking about the whole process. I think sometimes we can put a lot of effort into the advert and the imagery and the language to get people's attention and to invite people. But then what is their experience along that whole journey when we're sending invite letters to people, when we're doing interview questions, when we're sending information for interview? And for me, it was that conversation about the whole journey and not just how you attract people in the first place that has led on to the work we've done since.
And that's interesting, just for context as well. In one of the workshop sessions on intersectionality, the participant, you, chose different topics you wanted to explore with an intersectional lens, and one of them was inclusive recruitment. And it was really driven by actually all of your organizations and the need to kind of maybe think and reflect a bit more about how we recruit and actually onboard someone within our different organizations. Okay, great. What about you, Rebecca? So thinking about one of the key learning you had through the workshops.
I mean, I think for me, the Box is an organisation that's brought together several different teams in a relatively short space of time. The Box is only 5 years old, and we brought together teams from a museum, an archive and a visual arts team. And we're still kind of building the culture in the organisation. So I think it provides tools to help explain what intersectionality is and means to the wider team within our organisation, because I think there's still a kind of understanding gap as to what kind of intersectionality is. And I think for us, it's going to be really useful going forward in terms of thinking about our audiences and how we can programme maybe more effectively. But I think it's about thinking about kind of people as a whole and people as people, not just people as kind of being putting in one category or another category. And I think, for me personally, that's really important as well. Because as kind of a queer woman, you think about, I fit into several different boxes, and sometimes you think maybe you need to hide one part of yourself or another. But when you can talk about it in the framework of intersectionality, it's actually really helpful.
It is, because we all have so many parts of us that constitute who we are, isn't it? And it's really hard to think that is only one part that makes who we are. There's all these parts that creates our reality, our experiences, and also the barriers, the oppression, but also the privilege we all have. So Okay, great. Thinking about intersectionality, sometimes it could be a bit daunting or scary. If we're thinking about the barriers or the challenges attached to applying an intersectional lens, do you remember any of those you may have had in the past or you still have?
I think for me, to begin with, the fear was having to actually be an expert in everything. Because when you're not just zoning in on one characteristic or community, there is the fear that what intersectionality means is that you have to know everything about everyone and how to react and respond and support. And I think what was quite liberating within the workshops was it isn't about that. In fact, applying an intersectional lens means it's about inclusion more broadly, and that if you're able to do that, you're hopefully removing some barriers for lots of different people, some of which you might not really realise at the time because you're not focusing on that community or that individual, but actually by making it more inclusive and applying that lens throughout, you're kind of making it more open for everyone. So there was a moment in which that fear of having to know everything dissipated, and instead we were able to think more holistically about people.
What about you, Rebecca?
I think the sort of main barriers is sort of the sort of, as I said, coming back to the culture and the way people think about kind of challenges, and the way people think about sort of different categories or categorizations. And I think people, a lot of people still do think in those kind of very siloed ways, and it's breaking that down. And that's, still a barrier that we need to overcome, I think.